Welcome to the Playing Books podcast. Today, we're embarking on, well, a truly profound journey, I think, a really deep dive into a book that, honestly, it courageously challenges almost everything we've been told about how to build a fulfilling career. We're talking about Cal Newport's So Good They Can't Ignore You. And this isn't just about finding work you can, tolerate. It's really about crafting a life you genuinely love.
Yeah, and crucially, not by endlessly searching for some elusive passion, right? But by focusing on something much more tangible, the real value you can bring to the world.
Exactly. That shift in focus is just huge.
It really is. And our mission for you, our listener today, is to really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from this entire book. We want to peel back its layers, look at the fascinating stories he tells.
What are great stories, by the way?
They really are. And dissect its most surprising quotes. Our goal is basically to give you a shortcut, a way to be not just well-informed about the book's ideas, but maybe more importantly, to feel genuinely challenged to let these powerful concepts enhance your own life.
Yeah, to actually guide your professional journey, maybe in ways you didn't expect.
Right. We'll meticulously explore why mastering these rare and valuable skills, what Newport brilliantly labels career capital, why that is the real secret sauce, and then how to use that capital strategically, to gain meaningful control over your work and eventually to pursue a deeply personal, compelling mission.
And like you said, this is definitely far more than just a summary. Think of this as your, exclusive guided tour through Newport's core arguments. It's packed with unexpected insights, some really surprising facts, and these incredibly relatable examples drawn from the lives of real people.
So as we navigate these ideas together, we really encourage you, listening, to actively listen. Think about it. What specific details or maybe emotional moments really stand out to you in these stories? How do these insights, these maybe counterintuitive ideas, resonate with your own career journey, your aspirations, or maybe even, some of the frustrations you've bumped up against?
Yeah, and perhaps most importantly, we really invite you to actively think about how you can begin to apply these principles, maybe even immediately. This book offers a surprisingly practical, evidence-based path. It's not just theory.
Right. It's actionable.
Exactly. It's a path to building a truly compelling career, one that doesn't just feel good, like some fleeting passion, but actually is good, based on tangible results, real impact. By the end of our time together today, our hope is that you'll have, maybe a new roadmap, definitely a fresh perspective, and the tools to begin your own personal and professional transformation.
Moving from just chasing those elusive dreams to actually building a concrete, valuable reality.
That's the goal,
Yep.
building something solid. All right, let's unpack this then. Let's jump straight into rule #1 because, wow, it truly throws down a gauntlet right from the start. It challenges like a cornerstone of modern career advice. Don't follow your passion.
This is where Newport immediately goes after what he terms the passion hypothesis. And this is that, pervasive, widely accepted belief.
Everywhere.
It is everywhere. The idea that occupational happiness simply comes from figuring out your pre-existing sort of innate passion, and then you just find a job that perfectly matches it. Simple, right?
It's great on paper.
Yeah, it's the advice you hear in countless graduation speeches. It's plastered across self-help books. It's really ingrained in our cultural psyche. But this immediately raises an incredibly important, almost unsettling question. Why? Why is this ubiquitous advice, which feels so positive, so inspiring, why is it potentially terrible advice?
Yeah, why does Newport argue it's not just flawed, but maybe even destructive?
Exactly. What's the problem here?
Well, to really illustrate this provocative claim, Newport opens the book with a fantastic and honestly a quite heartbreaking anecdote. It's the story of Thomas the monk.
Ah, yes, Thomas.
Thomas had this deeply ingrained, almost sacred dream job fantasy, and it was rooted in his profound passion for Zen Buddhism. He wasn't just casually interested.
Yo, he was deep in.
Totally. He'd amassed multiple bachelor's degrees, philosophy, theology, and even a master's in comparative religion. All this academic pursuit had led him to this unshakable belief that Zen Buddhism held the singular, definitive key to unlocking a truly meaningful life.
Right, a spiritual fulfillment that would just wash away all his anxieties, his worries.
And a magic bullet.
Pretty much. And his prior work experiences, as he describes them, they just didn't measure up, did they? He talks about teaching English in Gumi, South Korea.
Oh yeah, the dry vomit detail sticks with you.
It really does. And for those boisterous Friday night soju sessions, right?
Yeah.
A stark contrast to inner peace, let's say. And he traveled extensively: China, Tibet, South Africa. He even endured a really dull data entry job in London. And in his mind, all of these experiences, they just paled in comparison to the spiritual, the intellectual fulfillment he was utterly convinced a monk's life would bring. He was truly, utterly dedicated to following what he believed was his preordained passion.
So after this really rigorous, 9-month application process, he finally makes it. He gets to the Zen mountain monastery nestled deep in the Catskills. And he describes his arrival with this palpable anticipation, doesn't he? Like being really hungry and you know that you're going to get this amazing meal.
Yeah, that expectation is so high. His new life becomes this monastic routine, early mornings, intense meditation, various duties.
And not all glamorous either, cleaning toilets, shoveling ditches.
Right, alongside doing graphic design for the monastery's journal. But then came the koans. Those perplexing Zen word puzzles designed to just defy logic, like, show me an immovable tree in a heavy wind.
Tough stuff.
Yeah. And he grappled with the infamous mu koan for months, the seemingly impenetrable riddle, until one day, walking in the quiet solitude of the forest, he experienced this sudden breakthrough, right? A profound moment where he felt he cracked it.
A glimpse of enlightenment almost.
A fleeting glimpse, yeah, of the unity of nature of all things. He'd passed the first gate of Zen. He'd achieved something significant within his chosen path.
And it's not long after this moment, at what he himself would describe as the zenith of his passion. I mean, this is the point where he could genuinely call himself a Zen practitioner, right?
Sure.
Deeply immersed in the very thing he believed was his calling.
Exactly, the peak.
That Thomas had this utterly shocking realization. He's walking in those same quiet woods, and it just hits him with this profound, almost crushing force. He says, the reality was nothing had changed. I was exactly the same person with the same worries and anxieties.
Wow.
And he started crying.
Right.
Right there in the forest.
Yeah.
So what does this pivotal moment really mean for us listening?
Well, it powerfully illustrates the profound disillusionment that can happen, right? When a path you followed because of passion, pursued with such conviction, doesn't deliver that promised, immediate, all-encompassing happiness. His meticulously crafted fantasy just crumbled.
Yeah, it shows that merely following a perceived passion, even achieving success within it, isn't enough to magically transform your inner state. It's not an automatic fix.
Definitely not. Which brings us to Newport's next move, which is really interesting and, like you said, a bit provocative. He turns to someone we all associate with following passion, someone whose quotes are practically gospel in the entrepreneurial world, Steve Jobs.
The ultimate icon, right?
You'd think. Jobs is often held up as the ultimate follow your passion example, but Newport uses his messy, complex origins to further dismantle that hypothesis.
Because if you actually dig into the less glamorous earlier parts of Jobs' life, the story is very different, isn't it?
Completely different. It's far from a clear, linear, passion-driven pursuit. I mean, he famously dropped out of college, slept on friends' floors, scrounged meals at a Hare Krishna temple. He was basically a pauper.
Not exactly the picture of driven focus.
Not at all. And he took that night shift job at Atari after seeing a really simple ad. It just said, have fun and make money.
Hardly a grand vision for changing the world there.
Right. And then there's his spiritual side. He embarked on that several-month journey to India, seeking enlightenment. And for years, he seriously trained at the Los Altos Zen Center, much like Thomas, actually.
So these aren't the actions of someone singularly and exclusively passionate about, say, microprocessors or building a tech empire from day one.
No way. Apple Computer, the book argues really compellingly, was born not out of some pre-existing burning passion for technology or revolutionizing the world, but out of a lucky break, essentially.
Just a small scheme.
A small scheme. Jobs just pitched Wozniak on selling circuit boards for, what, a modest $50 profit per board? Their initial plans were really circumscript and small time.
They weren't dreaming of taking over the world.
Not then. They were trying to make a few bucks. The book strongly implies that Jobs' legendary passion, the intensity we remember, was actually a result of his success, his mastery, his growing impact, not the origin story we typically tell ourselves.
Okay, so that's huge. If even Steve Jobs wasn't driven by some inherent preordained passion for tech from the get-go, if it genuinely grew from his mastery in his work, then what does that mean for the rest of us? How do we find work we'll eventually love, especially if we're being told not to simply chase a pre-existing passion?
Right. Is it a chicken and egg thing, or is Newport saying, like, suppress your interests?
Yeah, what's the actual advice here?
Well, it's a crucial distinction. Newport's argument isn't that passion should be suppressed. It's that it's often cultivated, earned, developed through the work. And this aligns profoundly with something he calls the road trip nation revelation.
Okay, what's that?
This wasn't just abstract theory. It came from researchers who actually went out and interviewed hundreds of incredibly successful people across really diverse fields: artists, entrepreneurs, scientists, you name it. And what they consistently found, time and time again, was the striking rarity of pre-existing passion being the driving force.
So most successful people didn't start with a clear passion.
Often not, no. Take Ira Glass, the iconic public radio host, creator of This American Life. He famously told students, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but the gist was, things happen in stages. There's a gap between your taste, your ambition, and your actual ability.
Right, the gap where your work isn't quite good enough yet.
Exactly. And he said the key thing is to force yourself through the work, force the skills to come. That's the hardest phase. He didn't start with this burning passion for radio. He started by putting in the reps, the hard work, to get good.
Okay, that makes sense, like grinding it out.
Or consider Al Merrick, the legendary master surfboard shaper. He didn't begin with some grand vision of building a global empire that would dominate pro surfing. His approach was much more grounded, more craftsman-like. He set simple goals for being the best I could be at whatever I did. He obsessed over the details, the nuances of foam and fiberglass.
Focused on the craft itself.
Precisely. And then there's William Morris, the renowned glassblower. When a student came to him lamenting having too many interests, no clear focus, Morris simply offered this really profound and honestly liberating advice. You'll never be sure. You don't want to be sure.
Wow, embracing the uncertainty.
Exactly. These stories all underscore a fundamental truth. Great, compelling careers are often forged, meticulously built through dedicated effort, not simply found by following a feeling.
Right, so the observation from all these interviews is crystal clear. Compelling, deeply satisfying careers often have complex, messy origins that fundamentally reject that simplistic follow your passion narrative.
Absolutely. And the core problem with the passion hypothesis, as Newport meticulously argues, is that it creates immense confusion and, frankly, undue pressure. It leads to chronic job hopping.
Because if you're not instantly fulfilled, you think, oh, wrong job.
Exactly. You assume you're in the wrong place. It fosters this deep angst, this belief that somewhere out there is a magic right job that will provide immediate certainty and happiness, which is just a fallacy. It sets you up for failure.
He calls it potentially the foundation for a career riddled with confusion and angst.
Yeah, because it sets an impossible, unrealistic standard. And what's truly fascinating here, and maybe a bit frustrating when you think about it, is that scientists have actually been observing this phenomenon, that passion is often a result of mastery and engagement, not a prerequisite, for decades.
But the advice hasn't caught up.
Largely, no. The mainstream career advice field has mostly ignored this research, continuing to perpetuate this unhelpful, sometimes damaging myth.
That is such a critical point. So for you listening right now, just take a second. What are some of those passion-driven myths you personally encountered, or maybe even believed yourself, about career success?
For me, it was definitely that insidious idea that if I wasn't feeling, 100% lit up, genuinely excited and energized by my job every single day, then I was somehow in the wrong place, failing to live my true calling.
Oh, completely. That pressure is immense.
It is. And this book absolutely flips that expectation on its head. It
Yeah.
replaces it with something far more empowering, I think, and definitely more achievable.
Indeed it does, because if follow your passion is, in fact, potentially terrible advice, maybe even a recipe for disappointment, then what is the compelling alternative? What should we do instead?
Right.
This leads us directly into rule #2, be so good they can't ignore you. And here, Newport introduces this profoundly powerful concept, the craftsman mindset.
Okay, the craftsman mindset, what is that exactly? It represents a fundamental, almost radical shift in focus. Instead of obsessing over what value your job offers you, which is essentially the passion mindset, you turn that lens outward. You focus relentlessly on what value you're producing in your job. What are you contributing?
So it's about output, not intake.
In a sense, yes. Initially, at least. This, he argues, is the foundational bedrock for creating work you love. It's about cultivating excellence, building real skill, not just waiting for inspiration or the perfect fit to magically appear.
And he illustrates this craftsman mindset with this incredible clarity, this quiet dedication of Jordan Tice.
Yeah.
He's a prodigious new acoustic guitarist whom Newport visited.
Right, in the slightly unconventional bluegrass frat house.
Yeah. And Jordan, he's just 24 at the time, but he'd already signed a record deal at 16. Super young, super talented, but he's remarkably modest, almost painfully so, isn't he?
Very. But his dedication to his craft is just absolutely astonishing. He practices in what Newport describes as this almost monastic room, often for 2 or 3 hours straight, meticulously working on a new, incredibly fast tune inspired by Debussy.
And it's not just noodling around.
Oh, definitely not. He pushes himself intentionally to play just a little faster than comfortable, repeating passages relentlessly over and over until he absolutely nails it. And he describes it not as fun, but as a physical and mental exercise. It's rigorous discipline.
That discipline really comes through.
And this almost monastic dedication to output, to sheer quality, is the undeniable key. Jordan articulates it beautifully himself. He says, "Here's what I respect. Creating something meaningful and then presenting it to the world."
Creating something meaningful, that's the focus.
Exactly. And this resonates so deeply with the wisdom that Mark Cass-Stevens shared with Newport. Cass-Stevens is this legendary Nashville studio musician. The guy has played on something like 99 #1 hit singles.
Wow. That's serious credibility.
Right. And Cass-Stevens delivered this blunt, undeniable truth. The tape doesn't lie.
The tape doesn't lie. What did he mean by that?
What he meant was that an obsessive, relentless focus on quality, on your actual output, trumps your appearance, your equipment, your personality, and your connections. In other words, in a world where performance is objectively measurable, like a recording session, your skill, your output, it just speaks for itself. Everything else is secondary.
So that's the essence of rule #2 then.
Pretty much. You need to be so good they can't ignore you. Your skill becomes your undeniable currency, your leverage.
Okay, so if adopting that craftsman mindset is the strategy, focusing on getting really, really good, what does that excellence actually buy you in your career? What are the tangible rewards?
Great question. What are the truly desirable traits that define great work? The kind of work we all aspire to actually love, not just tolerate? Newport distills it down to 3 key characteristics: creativity, impact, and control.
Creativity, impact, control.
Okay. Yeah. Think about Ira Glass constantly pushing the boundaries of audio storytelling. That's creativity and impact. Think about Steve Jobs fundamentally changing how we interact with technology and each other. Massive impact. And he certainly had control.
And Al Merrick, the surfboard shaper.
Right. Enjoying the autonomy of surfing near his factory whenever the waves were good, not bound by some rigid office schedule that's control. These aren't just, minor perks. They're deeply satisfying aspects of work that contribute significantly to fulfillment.
But how do you get those things? They sound pretty great.
Well, here's where some basic economic theory comes in simple supply and demand 101, really. These traits, creativity, impact, control, they are inherently rare and highly valuable in the professional landscape. Not every job offers them in abundance.
Okay, makes sense. They're desirable, so they're scarce.
Exactly. So if you, the individual, want to acquire something rare and valuable in your working life, like more control or creative freedom, logic dictates you need to have something equally rare and valuable to offer in return.
Ah, okay. The trade-off.
Precisely. And this is the core concept of career capital. Career capital is simply rare and valuable skills that you've painstakingly acquired and developed through that craftsman mindset, through deliberate practice. You need to diligently build this capital, accumulate it over time, like saving money, to then buy those incredibly desirable traits in your career.
So it's not a handout. It's earned. It's a negotiation. And your capital is your leverage, your bargaining chip.
That's exactly it. You're negotiating for a better work life using the value you've built.
And we see powerful examples of this career capital in action throughout the book, right? And just looking around in general, think about Steve Jobs again.
Mm-hmm.
He literally walked into Paul Terrell's bite shop with the Apple I circuit board, something that was literally rare and valuable at that specific moment in time.
A tangible piece of capital.
Exactly. And the initial money and recognition from that success, it bought him not just financial resources, but crucially, more control and more opportunity to build the next thing. He didn't stop there. He kept producing things of great value, like the revolutionary Apple II, which totally leapfrogged the competition.
Right. He kept reinvesting and building more capital.
And in return for this continuous output of high-value work, His career received this massive injection of creativity, impact, and control. His passion, as we discussed earlier, really grew alongside this capital accumulation. It wasn't the starting point.
And Ira Glass, too, embodies this perfectly. He's very candid about emphasizing that it took years of incredibly hard work, just putting in the hours, pushing through what he calls the gap, that frustrating phase where your taste, your ambition totally outstrips your current ability, where your work just isn't so good yet.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. And it was precisely these hard-won, rare, and valuable skills that he developed through that relentless effort, that deliberate practice, that ultimately earned him his fantastic, creative, and impactful job heading up This American Life.
And Al Merrick, the surfboard shaper, his capital was tangible too.
Totally tangible. His surfboards didn't just look good, they demonstrably won competitions. That's a clear, unambiguous metric of their value in his market. He put in the hard, often painful work to make his skills undeniably valuable, overcoming his initial fears of failure. The quality spoke for itself.
Okay, so building capital is key. But what happens if you ignore this fundamental principle? If you try to skip that step and jump straight to the passion or the dream job?
Well, the book shares a truly cautionary tale here, one that really underscores the dangers of chasing passion without the substance to back it up. It's the story of Lisa Foyer.
Lisa.
She was a seasoned advertising professional, 38 years old, successful in her field. But she decided to quit her established career to start a yoga business. The catch: she did this after just a 1-month certification course.
1 month?
Yeah. In making this really abrupt pivot, she essentially discarded the career capital she had meticulously accumulated over years in advertising. All that expertise, gone. She started her new venture with almost no capital in the yoga field. She lacked rare or valuable skills in either running a business or in advanced yoga instruction.
End result.
The tragic result was that within just a year, she found herself reliant on food stamps. Passion wasn't enough to pay the bills.
That's a stark contrast.
It is. Now, contrast Lisa's path with that of Joe Duffy. He's another advertising executive profiled who also felt constrained, frustrated by his corporate environment. But instead of fleeing, like Lisa did, he adopted the craftsman mindset within his field.
So he stayed, but changed his approach.
Exactly. He began acquiring the career capital he'd need to buy himself out of those constraints. He didn't just dabble. He specialized intensely. He focused on international logos and brand icons, mastering a niche where his skills became exceptionally rare and valuable.
Building capital strategically.
Right. This strategic accumulation of capital allowed him to gain increasing autonomy. First, he got to run his own subsidiary, Duffy Designs. Then, he spun that off into his own independent shop, Duffy & Partners, and ultimately, his accumulated capital and the resulting financial freedom allowed him to purchase Duffy Trails, this 100-acre retreat where he could literally ski from November through March.
Wow. That's some serious control and freedom.
Remarkable, right. And
Right.
it was earned through capital, not just wished for.
The stark metaphor Newport uses to illustrate these two divergent paths is incredibly powerful. It really lingers long after you read it. He says, 2 roads diverged. One traveler chose the path to mastery, while the other was called toward passion's glow. The former ended up celebrated. The latter ended up on food stamps.
Yeah, it's sobering, maybe blunt, but it's a potent reminder that enthusiasm, good intentions, even a strong feeling of passion just isn't enough to build a truly compelling, sustainable career. Genuinely valuable, rare skills, career capital are absolutely indispensable.
Okay, so that lands hard. You need the capital. The critical question then becomes, how? How practically do you become a craftsman? How do you build that capital? It's not just about putting in long hours, right? That's the common misconception.
Definitely not just hours. It's fundamentally about what you do with those hours. And this brings us to the absolutely crucial concept of deliberate practice.
Deliberate practice, okay.
Newport illustrates this by comparing his own guitar journey with Jordan Tice's, the guitarist we mentioned earlier. While both started playing around age 12, Jordan became this touring star, performing with professionals, while Newport, by his own admission, remained just an average strummer.
So what's the difference?
The profound difference wasn't just the total number of hours logged. It was that Jordan engaged relentlessly in what Newport calls serious study, which is basically deliberate practice.
And what exactly is deliberate practice? Can you define that a bit more?
Sure. Newport defines it pretty precisely. He says it's an activity designed, typically by a teacher, though not always, for the sole purpose of effectively improving specific aspects of an individual's performance. So it's not just playing or working. It's a highly focused, often uncomfortable, structured process, specifically aimed at improvement.
Okay, focused and structured. What are the key elements?
Two main things stand out. First, stretching yourself just past your current comfort zone, intentionally operating where you're prone to making mistakes. And second, receiving immediate and crucially ruthless feedback. That unvarnished truth about your performance, positive or negative.
Ruthless feedback.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Small chuckle. Yeah, not exactly pleasant, usually, but necessary. Consider the fascinating research on chess grandmasters. A landmark 2005 study by Neil Sharness found that grandmasters, the absolute elite of the chess world, spent 5 times more hours dedicated to serious study, Newport's term for deliberate practice, than intermediate players did.
5 times more.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of a total of maybe 10,000 hours of practice, grandmasters dedicated around 5,000 hours specifically to this focused, uncomfortable improvement. Just playing tournaments, surprisingly, wasn't enough to differentiate them. It was the targeted, deliberate effort behind the scenes.
So just doing the job isn't enough for real growth.
That's the critical insight. Most knowledge workers, unlike elite chess players or musicians like Jordan Tice, tend to actively avoid deliberate practice precisely because it is uncomfortable. It requires pushing boundaries, seeking criticism, and as a result, many people hit a performance plateau. They become competent, maybe even good, but they stop genuinely improving their core skills.
You get stuck in the comfort zone.
Exactly. But the good news is you absolutely can apply deliberate practice in knowledge work, even if the tape isn't as immediately obvious as a musician's recording or a chess game outcome.
Okay, how? Give us some examples.
Well, take Alex Berger, a highly successful TV writer profiled in the book. He possesses this almost obsessive, never-ending thirst to get better. He's constantly, proactively soliciting ruthless feedback on his scripts, even when he admits it feels humiliating sometimes.
He seeks out the criticism.
Actively seeks it out. He deliberately works on multiple projects concurrently, specifically pushing himself beyond his current capabilities, intentionally exposing himself to the kind of criticism that will help him refine his craft. He identifies his weak spots and attacks them directly. That's deliberate practice in writing.
Okay, that's a clear example. Any others?
Yeah, another compelling one is Mike Jackson, the highly accomplished clean tech venture capitalist. He also rigorously embraces deliberate practice. He intentionally tackles ambitious projects that are just beyond his current capabilities, forcing himself to stretch and learn new things.
Pushing the envelope.
Constantly. And then he receives direct, often blunt, feedback. Whether it's the ultimate metric of company profitability for his investments or peer reviews from his highly skilled colleagues. And here's a really tactical detail Newport mentions. Jackson literally tracks every hour of his day on a spreadsheet.
Every hour.
Every hour. And he consciously restricts time spent on just required tasks in favor of prioritizing what's important, which for him means dedicating focused time to high-leverage, growth-oriented work, the stuff that builds capital. He lives by the principle, I want to spend time on what's important instead of what's immediate.
That itself is a discipline, deliberate prioritization.
It absolutely is. It's a form of deliberate practice applied to how you manage your focus and energy.
Okay, so deliberate practice is crucial for building capital.
Yeah.
Newport actually distills this rigorous craftsman approach into 5 specific actionable habits, right? Like a practical blueprint for becoming so good they can't ignore you.
Exactly. 5 key habits, and the first one is crucial, maybe overlooked. Decide what capital market you're in.
Capital market, what does that mean?
It's essential because it dictates how you most effectively build capital. Are you in what he calls a winner-take-all market? This is where success hinges on mastering one single, incredibly specific skill to an elite, almost unrivaled level. Think of Alex Berger, the top-tier TV writer. Only the very best scripts land you a job. Being just pretty good isn't enough.
Okay, winner take all, what's the other type?
The other is an auction market. Here, you can succeed by combining multiple valuable skills in unique and valuable ways. You create a rare blend. Think of Mike Jackson, the clean tech VC. He combines deep engineering knowledge with financial acumen, market strategy, maybe networking skills. It's the combination that makes him valuable.
So you need to figure out which type of market your field is.
Right. Look at the most successful people in your field. Do they specialize intensely in one super narrow domain, or do they thrive on a broad, unique blend of complementary talents? Understanding this distinction radically shifts your strategy for building capital. Are you drilling deep or building broad?
Got it. So that's habit one. What's number two?
Second, once you've identified your market type, you need to identify your capital type. Especially for those auction markets, you should actively seek out open gates.
Open gates, like opportunities.
Yeah, opportunities to build relevant capital that are already accessible to you, maybe because of your background, education, or network. Where do you have a natural advantage or an easier entry point? Mike Jackson, for instance, leveraged his Stanford education and existing network to get involved in that natural gas project in India. That was an open gate for him.
A path of least resistance to valuable skills.
Exactly. It's about finding the most efficient way to start accumulating the right kind of valuable, relevant skills for your chosen market.
Okay. Habit three.
Third, and this is where many people stumble, especially in knowledge work, you need to define good. This sounds obvious, but in many professions, good can feel really nebulous, subjective. You need clear, unambiguous goals and success metrics for your practice.
So vague improvement isn't enough.
It's not for deliberate practice. For Jordan Tice, the guitarist, good was concrete. Mastering a specific, difficult technique to perform a song faster, cleaner, with precision. For Alex Berger, the writer, it was objective. Getting a script good enough to land him representation with a top-tier agent, that's clear external validation. Without a well-defined target, your practice just remains aimless.
Set measurable, stretch goals, know what you're aiming for.
Precisely. You need to know what good looks like so you know if your practice is actually working.
Makes sense. What's habit four? This sounds like the tough one.
It is. Habit 4 is stretch and destroy, and Newport is clear. This isn't fun. It is, in his words, the opposite of enjoyable.
Stretch and destroy sounds intense.
It means consistently pushing yourself just past your current comfort zone, embracing the struggle, the feeling of incompetence sometimes, and crucially, actively seeking out that honest, sometimes harsh feedback, like we talked about with Alex Berger.
Like the ruthless feedback.
Yeah. As Newport puts it so starkly, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're probably stuck. Alex Berger's willingness to send out scripts he later found humiliating was absolutely essential for his growth. It's right there, in those moments of discomfort, where you're struggling just beyond your current capacity and getting direct, unvarnished critique, that true learning and depth skill acquisition actually happens.
You have to embrace the suck, basically.
Pretty much. That's where the growth is.
Okay. And the final habit, number 5.
Finally, a habit that really underpins all the others: be patient. Mastery is rarely, if ever, an overnight phenomenon. It takes time. Newport cites the incredible example of Steve Martin.
The comedian.
Yeah, the comedian, writer, actor, and banjo player. He committed to playing the banjo for 40 years. 40. Knowing intuitively that anyone who sticks with something for 40 years will be pretty good at it.
40 years. That's serious dedication.
It is. And this profound diligence, as Newport calls it, isn't just about putting in the time passively. It means a deep willingness to ignore other attractive pursuits, other shiny objects, to focus relentlessly on one area, even when the rewards aren't immediately apparent or glamorous.
Sticking with it through the plateau.
Exactly. It's about understanding that growth is incremental. It compounds over time. It's not instantaneous. You have to trust the process.
Okay, those 5 habits are really practical. Decide your market, identify your capital type, define good, stretch and destroy, and be patient. So, thinking about this, for you listening, maybe pause for a second. What is one specific area in your current work where you could genuinely apply deliberate practice? What's a skill you'd really like to develop? Where could you consciously stretch yourself, clearly define what good looks like, and then actively seek out some honest, maybe even uncomfortable feedback? Perhaps it's something you've been kind of avoiding because it feels too difficult or too exposed.
That's a great prompt. Identifying that first step is key.
Definitely. And this fascinating discussion about building capital through deliberate practice brings us seamlessly to rule #3 in the book, turn down a promotion. Which sounds crazy, right? But it powerfully highlights the supreme importance of control, what Newport actually refers to as the dream job elixir.
Yeah, that subtitle is telling. Control. This is the next crucial step after you've diligently acquired that career capital. It's not just about having the capital, it's about strategically investing that capital to gain more autonomy, more influence in your professional life.
How does he illustrate this?
He introduces us to the story of Ryan Voiland and his incredibly successful Red Fire Farm. Ryan was an Ivy League graduate, smart guy, but he famously chose not to follow his classmates down the typical path to Wall Street or law school or whatever.
But against the grain.
Totally. Instead, he bought farmland out in Granby, Massachusetts to start Red Fire Farm. Now, the perennial fantasy of leaving the rat race often conjures these images of, idyllic, simple farming, getting back to nature.
Barefoot in the dirt.
Right. But Ryan's story shows the appeal isn't just about sunshine or escaping computers. I mean, he's meticulously organized, uses Excel spreadsheets, and his wife, Sarah, manages significant operations on the computer. The true, profound appeal of their life and their work, as they describe it, is autonomy,
Autonomy.
control.
Exactly. They state it simply. Their lives are their own to direct. They get to dictate their terms, their schedule, their values, how they run their business. That's the prize.
And their experience isn't just like a one-off anecdote, is it? Newport connects this to broader research.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He backs this up with decades of rigorous scientific research that consistently shows that having more control, more autonomy in one's work and life leads to this remarkable array of benefits. We're talking better academic grades, superior sports performance, increased productivity on the job, and crucially, significantly greater happiness and well-being.
So control actually makes us happier and better at what we do.
The evidence strongly suggests so. He even highlights companies that implement what's called a results-only work environment, or ROWE.
In these places, employees have full control over when you show up to work and when you leave, when you take vacations, and how often you check email. The focus is purely on results, not face time.
And what happens in those companies?
They report drastically increased employee happiness and performance. And get this, turnover rates often plummet. People love having that control, and they tend to perform better and stick around longer. Control, it turns out, is a really powerful driver of both well-being and effectiveness.
Okay, so control is incredibly valuable. But acquiring it isn't simple, right? Newport talks about traps.
Exactly. While it's highly desirable, acquiring sustainable control is far from straightforward. Newport identifies two significant control traps that ensnare many aspiring professionals who try to gain more autonomy.
What's the first trap?
The first is control without capital, trying to get the prize before you've earned it. He shares the cautionary tale of Jane. She was a talented student, full of this adventurous vision, who dropped out of college with the noble intention of starting her own nonprofit.
Sounds ambitious.
Very. Her ambition was admirable, but she essentially tried to gain the control of running her own organization, without having accumulated any real valuable skills, experience, or financial backing to offer in return. She hadn't built the capital first.
And what happened?
She found herself really struggling with financial independence, and eventually, much like Lisa Foyer, the yoga instructor, she ended up reliant on food stamps. Her desire for control outstripped her ability to create value.
So this mirrors Lisa Foyer's story too, abandoning her marketing career capital for yoga with almost no new capital.
Precisely. Newport points out that many well-intentioned individuals, particularly within what he calls the lifestyle design community, sometimes fall into this trap. They produce a lot of enthusiasm about not having a normal life, or they express a strong desire for autonomy, maybe through a blog or social media.
But the substance isn't always there.
Often, they lack the real, rare, and valuable skills that actually command a salary or generate true, sustainable income. He states it really plainly. Enthusiasm alone is not rare and valuable. You can want control all you like, but if you have nothing compelling, nothing valuable to offer in exchange in the marketplace, it just remains a fantasy.
So the hard truth of this first trap is pretty stark.
It is. He says, if you embrace control without capital, you're likely to end up like Jane, Lisa, or our poor, frustrated lifestyle designer, enjoying all the autonomy you can handle, but unable to afford your next meal.
Ouch. A sobering reminder that financial viability is just inextricably linked to sustainable control. You can have all the freedom you want, but if you can't pay your bills, that freedom is really just an illusion, isn't it?
It's a very fragile freedom, yeah. Okay, so that's trap. #1, seeking control without the capital. What's the second trap?
Now on to the second trap, which is maybe more subtle but equally dangerous. Control generates resistance.
Resistance, what does that mean?
This happens once you do have enough career capital. Once you become genuinely valuable, maybe even indispensable to an organization, something counterintuitive often happens. When you then attempt to exercise your newfound leverage to gain more autonomy or control, maybe ask for a flexible schedule or pitch a passion project, your employer will often fight, sometimes fiercely, to keep you on a less autonomous, more conventional path. They don't want to lose their valuable asset or disrupt the status quo.
Ah, so when you're valuable, they try to lock you down.
Exactly. Think about Lulu Young, the freelance software developer profiled in the book. She started at the absolute bottom rung, quality assurance, basically testing software. But she methodically built serious career capital. She learned to hack UNI systems, she automated testing processes, skills that were rare and highly valuable. She made herself indispensable.
Okay, so she built the capital first.
Right. And then, with this significant capital, she began making these strategic bids for more control. She boldly demanded a 30-hour work week so she could take time off to study philosophy.
Wow, that takes guts. How did that go?
Her employer, realizing just how valuable her unique skills were, they couldn't really refuse. They needed her. Later, she actually turned down a highly coveted big promotion. Why? To instead work at a small, initially ill-defined startup where she knew she'd have more influence, more control.
Trading status for control.
Exactly. And eventually she demanded 3 months leave, ultimately transitioning into becoming a highly successful freelancer who completely dictated her own terms, her own projects, her own rates. But the key is, the resistance she faced was real. People told her she was nuts for turning down that promotion. Her new owners tried every tactic imaginable to keep her from going fully freelance. But her capital, her undeniable value, gave her the leverage to push through that resistance and succeed.
Her skills were her shield against the resistance.
Precisely. Another powerful example of this resistance is Lewis, the plastic surgery resident. He was deeply frustrated by the stifling bureaucracy of the hospital system. He'd even witnessed a patient die, he felt, due to an administrative error.
That's intense.
Very. It deeply frustrated him. So he made this really audacious move. He took 2 years off from his elite residency program to start his own online medical education company.
Sure.
His motivation was crystal clear. He wanted to gain more control over how his medical ideas were disseminated and applied, unburdened by all that institutional red tape.
Taking control of his impact.
Right. And his residency program, as you might expect, fiercely resisted his decision. They tried to block it. But his deep medical expertise, his significant career capital, provided him with the leverage he needed. He was simply too valuable to just let go or alienate completely. It allowed him to negotiate terms and pursue his vision.
So the more valuable you are, the more resistance you might face when you try to cash in that value for control.
That's the paradox of trap #2.
Okay, so given these two potent control traps, trying to get control without capital, trap #1, and facing resistance when you do have capital, trap #2, how do you navigate this? How do you know when the resistance you're facing is a useful warning sign that you're maybe falling into trap #1, that you lack sufficient capital, versus when it's simply the predictable friction of trap #2, something you need to push through because you do have the leverage?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you tell the difference?
Newport offers a simple yet incredibly powerful heuristic, a rule of thumb for this: the law of financial viability.
The law of financial viability. Okay.
This brilliant insight actually comes from Derek Sivers, the idiosyncratic founder of CD Baby, whom Newport describes as a true control freak, in the best sense someone obsessed with autonomy. Sivers developed this kind of mental algorithm for navigating these tricky career choices, and it's deceptively simple but ruthlessly effective.
What is it?
Simply this: do what people are willing to pay for.
Do what people are willing to pay for. That
Yeah.
sounds very commercial.
It does, but Sivers emphasizes, and Newport agrees, this isn't about pursuing money just for the sake of accumulating vast wealth. Remember, Sivers famously gave away $22 million from his company sale to a charitable trust. So he wasn't driven by greed.
Okay, so what's the point of focusing on pay then?
Instead, he sees money specifically, evidence that people are willing to pay for what you offer, as a crucial, neutral indicator of value. By aiming to make money from your pursuit, you're not necessarily aiming to get rich. You're aiming to confirm that what you're doing, the skill you're offering, the control you're seeking, actually provides tangible value to others in the real world.
So money is just evidence of value, an objective measure.
Exactly. Of course, Newport notes, hobbies are exempt from this law. You can pursue hobbies purely for pleasure. But for significant career decisions involving control, especially when you're considering leaving a stable path, this law serves as an absolutely critical, objective judge. It answers the question: does your pursuit have real exchangeable value in the marketplace? It acts as an external validator, cutting through wishful thinking or just pure enthusiasm.
Okay, I see the distinction. It's a reality check.
A powerful one, and Sievers applied this law rigorously to his own career. He didn't impulsively quit his day job to pursue music full-time just because he was passionate. He waited until he was demonstrably making more money with his music than his salaried position provided. Concrete evidence.
Prudent.
Very. And when he started CD Baby, which eventually became this massive online music retailer, he didn't plunge in full-time from day one, risking everything on a dream. He started incredibly small. He funded the venture literally with his very first sale. As he famously put it, "First I sold one CD, which gave me enough money to sell two."
Bootstrapping based on actual demand.
Exactly. This patient, capital-driven, evidence-based approach allowed him to slowly but surely build his empire and ultimately achieve the profound control and autonomy he craved, without falling into trap #1.
So the law of financial viability, to state it clearly, is when deciding whether to follow an appealing pursuit that will introduce more control into your work life, seek evidence of whether people are willing to pay for it. If you find this evidence, continue. If not, move on, or at least reconsider.
That's the law. It provides a vital objective filter. It helps you distinguish between sustainable control and unsustainable fantasy. It applied to Ryan Voiland, the farmer, securing that substantial farm loan from the FSA that was proof people, well, an institution, believed in the financial viability of his plan. It applied to Lulu Young, the programmer, whose employers kept cutting her paychecks even as she dictated increasingly autonomous terms, clear evidence they valued her contribution enough to pay for it under her conditions.
So this law is what separates sustainable long-term control from maybe just wishful thinking or a fleeting passion project that can't support itself. It's the ultimate reality check against falling into trap #1.
It truly is. It grounds your ambition in market reality. So for you, our listener, just take a moment to reflect again. Think about a time you perhaps tried to gain more control in your life or work. Did you genuinely have enough concrete career capital, enough demonstrable value to back up that desire? Did you have evidence people would pay for it, literally or figuratively? What was the outcome? Applying this law of financial viability retrospectively or proactively can be really insightful.
Absolutely. It really makes you reconsider the foundation upon which you're building those aspirations for autonomy. Is it built on rock or on sand?
Well said.
Okay, this brings us to the final major rule in the book, rule #4, think small, act big. This section dives into the profound importance of mission.
Mission. And what's truly fascinating here is how Newport frames it, how having a unifying, deeply held mission can be this unparalleled source of deep satisfaction. It can imbue your work with profound meaning, a sense of purpose, and paradoxically, pursuing a mission often leads to remarkable, sometimes completely unforeseen opportunities.
So mission isn't just about feeling good, it opens doors.
It can. Absolutely. Newport introduces us here to Pardee Sabeti. She's a Harvard evolutionary biologist, and by all accounts, her energy and happiness are just palpable. She's incredibly accomplished scientifically, but she also effortlessly juggles leading a rock band and even organizing a volleyball team for her lab members.
Wow, she sounds amazing.
Right. And her mission, as she states it, is decidedly not subtle. Her goal, to rid the world of its most ancient and deadly diseases like malaria and Lassa fever using the power of computational genetics.
Okay, that's a huge, inspiring mission, a world-changing goal.
Absolutely massive. But it immediately raises an important practical question for the rest of us. How do you take such a sweeping, ambitious mission and actually make it a tangible reality in your career? How do you even begin to approach something that significant without getting completely overwhelmed?
Yeah, where do you even start with a mission like rid the world of disease?
Well, Newport immediately stresses a familiar theme. Missions require capital. This isn't just a casual suggestion. He frames it as a non-negotiable prerequisite. A mission, however inspiring, that is chosen before you have relevant career capital is not likely to be sustainable. You can't just declare a grand mission without the skills and position to actually pursue it effectively.
So again, capital comes first. You need the foundation.
Exactly. He introduces this brilliant concept from the science writer Stephen Johnson, the idea of the adjacent possible.
The adjacent possible, what's that?
It illuminates where true innovation, and therefore where truly compelling, actionable career missions are typically found. Innovation doesn't usually happen in some huge leap into the distant future or completely out of the blue. It typically occurs just beyond the current cutting edge of a field. You explore the possibilities directly adjacent to what's already known or being done.
Okay, so it's about exploring the next logical step.
Pretty much. And this implies a critical truth for finding a mission. You absolutely need to get to the cutting edge of your field first. You need to accumulate the necessary career capital, the deep expertise, the understanding of the current landscape before you can even clearly see, let alone effectively pursue, a truly novel and impactful mission that lies in that adjacent possible.
You have to be at the frontier to see what's just over the horizon.
Beautifully put. And this is starkly illustrated by the counterexample of Sarah, a grad student Newport profiled. She was completely paralyzed, really struggling because she felt she lacked a clear mission for her research.
She was searching for purpose.
Endlessly searching. But Newport argues her problem wasn't a lack of desire. It was that she was trying to find a mission before she got to the cutting edge. She was simply too far from that frontier of knowledge and practice in her field to even perceive a compelling, viable direction, a meaningful problem she was equipped to tackle. She lacked the necessary capital, the perspective that comes from expertise.
So she couldn't see the adjacent possible yet.
Exactly. Now, contrast Sarah's paralysis with Party Sabeti's journey. Party's demonstrated incredible patience and a very strategic accumulation of capital over many years. Her path was far from linear or preordained. She moved from math initially, then to biology, then she did medicine, then specialized in infectious disease, and finally she integrated computational genetics into her work.
That's a lot of steps, a lot of capital building.
A huge amount. She didn't try to force some preconceived direction early on. Instead, she diligently built expertise layer by layer over years, through her undergrad, her PhD, her postdoc work. And it was only then, after reaching the cutting edge in multiple relevant areas, that her specific mission finally became clear. It emerged naturally when her unique combination of skills allowed her to see novel, useful ideas that others couldn't. Her mission stood on a deep foundation of expertise.
So that's the essence of the think small, act big philosophy.
Precisely. You advance patiently to the cutting edge, that's the think small, the narrow focus on building deep expertise. And then once you're there and can see the adjacent possible clearly, you zealously pursue the discovered, compelling mission, that's the act big. Capital first, then mission.
Okay, that makes sense. But even once you have the capital and you're at the cutting edge, how do you bridge that gap between having a grand mission idea, like Party Sabeti's, and actually implementing it? How do you translate vision into action?
Great question. This leads to another crucial concept for mission-driven work. Missions require little bets. Newport draws heavily here on Peter Sings's brilliant work from his book of the same title, Little Bets.
Little bets, okay.
The idea is that significant progress, especially on ambitious, uncertain goals like a mission, often comes not from creating grand, sweeping, multi-year plans, but from executing a methodical series of little bets about what might be a good direction.
Those small experiments instead of giant leaps.
Exactly. It's an iterative process. You try small things, you learn critical information from lots of little failures and from small but significant wins. This approach provides rapid, actionable feedback much faster than a rigid, large-scale plan would, and it often reveals unexpected avenues, new possibilities you wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
Can you give an example of this?
Yeah, Kirk French provides a fantastic example. He's an archaeologist and eventually became the co-host of the Discovery Channel show American Treasures. His clear mission was ambitious. He wanted to popularize modern archaeology, make it exciting and accessible to a mass audience.
Okay, big goal. How did he use little bets?
Instead of waiting around hoping for a big TV deal to magically materialize, he started with a series of small, low-risk experiments, little bets. He digitized an old archaeological documentary he admired. He went out and filmed some sample footage himself for a potential updated version. Small stuff he could do on his own.
Testing the waters.
Right. But the key little bet, the one that changed everything, was totally unexpected. He followed up on this random call he got about some supposed Knights Templar treasure being found in Pittsburgh. Most people might ignore that, but he impulsively decided to go film the encounter, creating this small, self-produced project he called the Armchair Archaeologist.
Just a little side project.
Exactly. And even though the treasure turned out to be nothing more exciting than old deer bones, that small, concrete, experimental project, which cost him almost nothing to make, was seen by the right person and directly led to the Discovery Channel greenlighting his major TV show, American Treasures. He tried small, concrete experiments to explore his mission, and one of them paid off spectacularly in a way he couldn't have planned.
Wow. That's a great story about unexpected outcomes from small actions.
Isn't it? And Participetti also used little bets in her scientific career, exploring different labs, different research focuses, iterating on her computational approach until her specific methodology gained traction and proved its unique worth within the scientific community. It wasn't one giant leap, it was a series of explorations and refinements.
Okay, so capital first, then little bets to explore the mission. What else is needed?
Finally, for a mission to truly take hold, to spread, to have impact beyond just yourself, Newport argues that missions require marketing, and specifically, they need to adhere to the law of remarkability.
The law of remarkability. Marketing your mission.
Essentially, yes, but not necessarily marketing in the traditional advertising sense. He illustrates this with Giles Bowkett, who Newport describes as a rock star Ruby programmer. Bowkett completely transformed his career from feeling bored and uninspired to living a remarkable life by consciously deciding to combine his artistic side — he was also a musician and writer — with his technical programming skills.
Finding a unique niche.
Exactly. And he approached his mission to integrate these two sides with a really keen marketing mindset. He drew inspiration directly from Seth Godin's enduring concept of the purple cow.
The purple cow, be remarkable or be invisible.
Precisely. The idea that in a crowded marketplace, you're either remarkable or invisible. He also took notes from another influential figure in the programming world, Chad Fowler, whose book My Job Went to India argued that the best way to market oneself as a programmer is through prolific open-source software contributions, letting your high-quality, useful work speak for itself and build your reputation.
Okay, so how did Bowkett apply this? What was his purple cow?
Bowkett's own purple cow was a project called Archaeopteryx. It was this ingenious AI-driven music creator he built using Ruby. This project was truly remarkable because it represented a unique and compelling combination of his deep expertise in Ruby programming and his profound knowledge of music theory. It wasn't just another programming tool, it was art meeting code.
That does sound unique.
Right. This unexpected fusion made it stand out immediately. It made it, in Newport's words, compel people to remark about it, to talk about it, share it, because it was genuinely unusual, interesting, and impressive. It wasn't beige, it was purple.
And the venue mattered too, right?
Critically important. It wasn't enough just to build something remarkable. He launched it in a venue that was conducive to this remarking. He released it within the open source community. He spoke about it at Ruby user groups and programming conferences, places where highly engaged, influential individuals are naturally inclined to discuss, share, and evangelize truly innovative work they find exciting. The venue amplified the remarkability.
So the law of remarkability has two parts then.
Exactly. It's a critical component for any mission-driven project aiming for impact. The law states, for a mission-driven project to succeed, it should be remarkable in two different ways. First, it must compel people who encounter it to remark about it to others. It has to be inherently interesting, memorable, worth talking about. Second, it must be launched in a venue that supports such remarking, a place where those conversations can naturally happen and spread.
Okay, remarkable content in a remarkable, friendly venue.
You got it. Think about Participetti's research papers. She didn't just publish dry data. She often had incredibly catchy, almost provocative headlines like, "Are we still evolving?" that practically begged to be discussed, not just in scientific circles, but in the popular press too. That's remarkability in content. Or think about Kirk French's TV show on the Discovery Channel. Society is literally trained and primed to discuss television content. The venue itself was perfect for spreading his mission.
The venue can make a huge difference.
Huge. The right project in the wrong place might go nowhere.
Okay, so let's pause again and ask you, listening. As you reflect on your own unique set of skills, your interests, your experiences, what's the unique combination you possess that could potentially lead to a purple cow project? Something that genuinely stands out because it blends different areas in an interesting way. And once you imagine that potential project, where would be the best venue to share it? Where is the community or platform where people are not only present, but also naturally inclined to remark about and spread the word about what you're doing? It's a powerful thought exercise.
Definitely worth pondering. How can you make your work remarkable and launch it where it will be noticed?
All right, let's try and unpack all of this now and bring it together as we wrap up. The core philosophy of So Good They Can't Ignore You is, well, it's radical in simplicity, isn't it? Yet it's profoundly impactful when you really absorb it, the core message. Don't obsess over that elusive, often frustrating search for a true calling or some pre-existing dormant passion you just need to discover.
Right. That path, as we've seen, often leads to frustration, job hopping, and endless searching rather than fulfillment.
Instead, Newport urges us really strongly to focus our energy on something much more concrete and actionable: building career capital, those rare and valuable skills that truly differentiate you in the marketplace. And this capital isn't acquired through luck or sudden inspiration.
No, it's acquired through diligent, often uncomfortable, deliberate practice, consistently pushing yourself just beyond your current capabilities, seeking feedback, and putting in the focused effort over time.
And then, once you've painstakingly acquired this invaluable capital, the strategy shifts, doesn't it? It's not just about having it, it's about using it. You then strategically invest this capital.
Right. You invest it to acquire the key traits that truly define great, fulfilling work. Primarily, as we discussed, meaningful control over what you do and how you do it, but always ensuring that control is grounded by the pragmatic law of financial viability, making sure your autonomy is sustainable.
And finally, with that solid foundation of capital and control, you can then effectively identify and pursue a compelling, unifying mission. And this mission isn't just some vague fantasy you pick out of thin air.
No, it emerges from your expertise. It's developed through patience, getting to the cutting edge first. It's explored through a methodical series of those little bets that provide real-world feedback and refine your direction. And it's amplified by consciously leveraging the law of remarkability, ensuring your efforts stand out and gain the traction they need to succeed.
This whole philosophy, Newport freely admits, is probably less sexy than the fantasy of dropping everything to go live among the monks in the mountains, like Thomas tried to do. It doesn't promise that immediate spiritual enlightenment or some overnight magical transformation.
But, and this is the crucial part, isn't it? It's also a philosophy that has been shown time and again to actually work. It's grounded in reality, in evidence, in the stories of people who have built truly compelling careers.
Remember Thomas the monk? We started with him sobbing in the forest, completely disillusioned by his passion-led fantasy. But Newport catches up with him 10 years later. And then Thomas is confident, fulfilled, genuinely saying, life is good.
That's the transformation.
That is the profound transformation the book points towards, moving away from that endless, often frustrating search for the mythical right work, and instead focusing on diligently, purposefully working right, building real value, developing mastery, earning control, and finding deep fulfillment and passion in the process as a result of your efforts.
It's a much more empowering frame, I think. You're building your career, not just waiting to find it.
Absolutely. So we truly challenge you, our dedicated listener, don't just let these ideas wash over you. Let the powerful, maybe counterintuitive insights from So Good They Can't Ignore you genuinely enhance your own life and career. Don't just listen. Actively think about what specific, actionable steps you can take, maybe starting this week or this month. What can you do to start consciously building your career capital? Or perhaps to begin strategically investing the capital you already have to gain more control or more clarity around a potentially compelling mission in your own work. What's just one thing you can do today based on these ideas?
That commitment to action is key. Even a small step in the craftsman direction.
Definitely. And if you found these insights compelling, if they were thought-provoking, genuinely useful for you, we wholeheartedly encourage you to dig deeper into Cal Newport's incredible body of work. He's written several other fantastic books as well.
He's very prolific.
You can explore more of his ideas and stay updated on his latest thinking by visiting his long-running blog, Study Hacks, which you can find as part of his main website at calnewport.com. That's calnewport.com/blog. You can also search for his social media presence, likely linked from his website, to engage further with his ideas and the community around them.
And of course, to fully benefit from all the detailed stories, the really nuanced arguments, and the truly actionable strategies that make this book so good they can't ignore you, so powerful and practical, we highly recommend you purchase the book itself, read it, underline it, engage with it. It's genuinely a resource that will continue to give back as you apply its principles throughout your career journey.
It really holds up to rereading, too, as you progress.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today on this deep dive, this special Playing Books podcast episode. We sincerely hope you found immense value and, maybe more importantly, some practical insights in today's discussion.
If you did, we'd be really grateful if you'd consider taking just a moment to follow or subscribe to the Playing Books podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And maybe share this episode with a friend, a colleague, anyone you know who might also benefit from wrestling with these powerful ideas about work and fulfillment. Your support truly helps us continue to bring more insightful deep dives into amazing, challenging books like this one. Until next time, keep working right, keep building that capital.
And keep being so good they can't ignore you.